Hello, loves. We finished Kingdom Hearts 3, so this will probably be my last video on it. Unless there's a desire to return to something, or if you suggest I go back and do some things that I missed. I know I did not ever use the link command, I never used the bistro, and I very rarely interacted with the flow motion system unless it was required of me. So, to be fair, there are aspects of this game that I missed out on. This video is going to be, as you can see, not blocking out the background, no editing, just final thoughts. And I would love, if you went on this journey with me, or if you've played Kingdom Hearts 3, I'd love to hear your thoughts and your opinions, if you're willing to share them. Be very grateful for that. So, please do share. My mindset was a bit tilted because of my experience with the previous games, or lack thereof. I want to touch on some of the pros right now. The combat system I've praised before. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth on some of these things because of my rant, which was literally a few steps away from the final fight when I made it. It's like excellent timing. Asterisk sarcasm. But the combat system I expressed that I enjoyed on Sora's behalf, not on the enemy AI's behalf. Primarily bosses. Bosses were ridiculous. Final fight showed that a bit more. But the combat system for Sora was good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I want to sing my praise to that. The music was good. I wouldn't say it's great, but it was good. I personally preferred some of the prior Kingdom Hearts soundtracks. I want to sing praise to the animators, though, because every single world, for the most part, it wasn't a costume swap like some of the original, like in Kingdom Hearts 1, which, except for Atlantis, I think, basically felt like a costume swap. Every single world, that's a different model for Sora and Goofy and Donald. Mad respect for those being made, for each location. Mad respect. I don't have much more in the ways of pros. Some cons. Exposition. When I felt like there was more exposition than gameplay in most instances, something went horribly wrong when I still walked away not understanding things. One of the things I touched on in the rant, I believe it's part 35, if you want to go back and look on that, was for the ending. I hoped things were wrapped up with a black box. Maleficent's side story. Except it wasn't a side story, because it was forced in. And you were forced to acknowledge it. And being forced to acknowledge it, it was just another part of the story that didn't have an ending. It did focus a bit more on Xigbar, the one character of the organization which I felt actually had a reason to fight. Which I was pleasantly surprised that Xigbar got more, but at the same time, it wasn't more towards resolution, it was more towards, we have another open-ended story plot. Kingdom Hearts has diverged into a spider's web of endless drop-offs and open ends for story to pick off from. Nothing's getting resolved. And that was the biggest issue. The worlds we visited, some of them had some great characters. Tangled felt great. character design there. The people who had to work on Rapunzel's hair. Oh my goodness. My sympathy. Because that's a lot to work with. But when you combine everything as a whole, I was definitely disappointed at the number of worlds. Because I believe we had the same amount as we had in the original Kingdom Hearts. And more could have been added, in my personal opinion, if we had dropped the unnecessary open world travel between places in space. If we had the linear routing for the gummy ship as we did in the first Kingdom Hearts, I think we could have had another world or two. That's another thing I didn't go into. I did not work on the gummy ships at all. It wasn't really necessary either. I'm sure I missed a lot of space bosses. But I walked away from Kingdom Hearts 3 for the most part disappointed. And I hate to say that, because I had such high hopes. Kingdom Hearts 3 felt, to me, like an incomplete game. And you can see the work that went into it. So much of that game shines. The locations, a lot of them were great. Characters, a lot of them were great. But the interwoven story throughout did not hold up. And when your main plot is your weakest point, it doesn't work. There's an expression that great characters can make up for the plot, and they drive the story. And a lot of the story was not driven by you, the player, by Sora. It was frequently reactionary. It was the plot pushing the character, not the character driving the plot. Because of that, it was hard to get invested. You're given a vague goal of discover the power of waking. And across all our journeys to all these different places, none of them affected that vague plot, really. And things that were hinted at and built up to were just left. There was a lot of setup in this game, but there was not payoff. I really wish I had written a script for this. Loves the in-the-moment gameplay I enjoyed. The aesthetics I enjoyed. Everything, all the visuals. There was an issue with the visuals. So, there are frequently times in which there's too much being displayed and going on screen to make things comprehensible. Especially in the flowing Kingdom Hearts, the flowing Keyblade attack section that took place at the graveyard. It didn't work. I wasn't excited, I was frustrated. The What montage in part 35, which consisted of only 3 episodes. And that was supposed to be like this huge climax in the story. And the fact that it wasn't just me asking what was going on, it was the characters, because they didn't know. They didn't understand. I will praise Kingdom Hearts gameplay in the regular sections. But the forced interactions and the forced combat sections that required like almost quick time event style were unnecessary, and I felt took away from the story, from the game. Kingdom Hearts 3, in my opinion, was a bridge game, like Chain of Memories, in which there felt like there was a lot of interesting things that happened, but nothing that held up to the story. Nothing that enhanced or furthered the story. Which is sad, because you had such build up and hype for these 13 and their fights and everything. And it wasn't handled well. It wasn't executed well. It felt like it was building up to a better game. Like it was building up to the next game. Like Chain of Memories did between 1 and 2. Its setup. So Chain of Memories was better in my opinion. Apologies, loves. I mean, this rant is a bit, if it's not really a rant, just my final thoughts before we move on to something else. I personally wanted more, and this game accomplished leaving me wanting more. But not more Kingdom Hearts 3. It's a short video today, but I wanted to get this out there. Please share your thoughts, your opinions, if you feel there's some things that would make it better for me, if there's some things that I missed that would clear up a lot, make it more interesting, things that I overlooked in my playthrough, let me know. I genuinely am hopeful that there are some huge things that I just overlooked, and I would appreciate to see that and get to know that. Until next time, loves, I'm Pajamas, that's Mr. Frog. Y'all take care. Toodles.